Hey, what's up, guys? This is TBone here. Welcome back to another episode of Gemstone Legends. So in today's episode, I'm going to do a unit highlight, and that is going to be specifically Ketra. I would like to talk about her skills, and how you could potentially develop her. Now, keep in mind that what I'm going to show here is just my personal preference and how I've developed her. You could definitely develop her in a different way. You can use different artifact sets, but I'm going to talk about the theory behind why I chose what I did. So Ketra is a rare hero, and so because of that, she's a lot easier to obtain, and it's also a lot easier to upgrade her skills. If you take a look at her special ability, she gains increased defense for 4 turns, so she buffs herself, and then she deals the damage based on the amount of defense she gets. So the higher defense amount you get, the more damage she'll be able to deal. So that is definitely going to be the primary focus for her. It's all about defense. And on top of that, you want to have defense, and you also want to have critical rates to increase the chances that when you do deal damage, it's going to be a critical damage, which gives you more than her amount. So you can see here, I actually have my critical rate at 130%, while my critical rate is at 69%. Okay, so that means 69% of the time when she deals damage, it's going to be higher than her actual amount, and it's going to be 130% more. So she can really dish out a lot of damage. And so if you take a look at her artifacts now, what I did was I decided I wanted to try and boost her critical rate and also critical damage over just pure defense. So I definitely could have given her more guardian sets, but because I don't have as much guardian sets to really combine both defensive value and also critical rating, I decided to use Hawkeye. So Hawkeye is going to give you 15% critical rate. If you take a look at sort of the skills here, this is not optimal because as far as like the main stats and also the substats go, you definitely want to see more of the defense, critical rate, and critical damage. So I don't see that in the weapons here. So I'm still actively trying to upgrade it more, but I'm putting in Hawkeye here so I can get the 15% critical damage that critical rate that I'm missing. And here I do have a helmet that's giving me 27% on defense because I was able to get all 3 upgrades to land there. And then this one doesn't have any critical rate or critical damage, but I'm getting that in my shield. So this is where I have my Crusher shield now, and critical rate and critical damage. Health is going to be helpful. Obviously, HP will always be helpful because then you have more health, you can sustain more hits. So that is something that you don't want to overlook. But because she's going to have really high defense, she'll be able to absorb a lot of hits as well. And here I have a glove that does give me 50% defense here. Although I would have preferred if I could have gotten a glove that has critical rate as the main stat, because gloves are the only equipment that gives you critical rate as a main stat, but I couldn't find any, so I'm using this to boost up my defense instead. And you can see here I have critical rate and also damage. Attack is actually not going to matter as much here because you're not really counting on her to use her skills. I mean, her gem match damage. You're using her for her active skill. And I have an armor. Again, you can see here I have some critical damage here and some defense, and then boots here with critical rate as well as critical damage. So the goal here is to try and get as much defense and also critical rate and damage as possible. There's definitely a lot of room for improvement, but this is what I chose to go with. And so with this amount of crit rate and critical damage, I actually get her to deal more damage than most of my heroes. Okay, and before we move on from that, I just want to also talk about her passive ability because this is also important. Because if you take a look at her, by default, her mana gains at 18, so that means that you need to match 6 gems every time in order to fully activate her skill. Okay, and in some cases that will make her a lot slower to use, and so you need to try and increase her mana. But you don't want to sacrifice the equipment space by putting caster sets. So if you take a look at her passive ability, by level 7, she has mana gain increased by 2. So that means instead of 18 mana, she will now go up to 20. Okay, and so now all you need to do is match 5 gems, and she'll be able to get the fully charged active skill. Passive ability mana gain doesn't show up in this value here, so even though this is 18, it's actually 20. And you can see her passive ability also increases whenever you go up a level. It also increases your crit damage by a lot, and so it's all about adding as much critical damage as you can. Okay, now it costs 100,000 gold to upgrade each of your levels, but I think it's definitely worth it to get her max leveled. And if you take a quick look here, she is my primary hero that I use in almost every fight. Just about every single boss I go against, I have her on the team. So you can see here in this particular fight, I didn't do as much damage as I normally would, but you can see I was able to deal 63, almost 64,000 here, whereas Goldschmier was able to deal 75. Now, Goldschmier actually had an advantage because this is against a purple boss. Okay, so Goldschmier actually had, affinity bonus here, and yet Ketra was able to keep up and able to deal almost as much damage. I've seen some cases where she's able to do even more, depending on how many times I'm able to get her critical damage to land. Okay, so she's definitely very useful in all of my fights. I use her all the time, and I use her in arena as well. So you can see here, if I go into arena, she is also on one of my primary attack teams because I'm able to just individually knock down enemies, especially that any green units on it. I can take down their health very easily, very quickly. Now, in terms of like units that she works well with, so Ketra is going to work well with any units that give a, for example, Alton. Alton has a skill that will decrease defense. Okay, so decreasing defense is going to be one that will really help. Another unit that is going to be really good to pair her with is going to be Kusai. So Kusai has ability that will inflict vulnerability, which also makes them take more damage from active skills. So these are good support units, good support skills. It doesn't have to be these heroes, but those are really, really good support skills to pair with Ketra, because if you can use that skill against the enemies, when Ketra deals damage to them, she'll deal even more damage, and you'll be able to take out bosses even easier. And so that is going to be it for me for today for this particular video. I hope you enjoy this content, and hopefully this helps you at least figuring out how to use Ketra, how to develop her, and why you should have her on your team. She's also, one last thing, she is a unit that can be created through fusion. And so if you don't have her through a, through your scrolls, you can always develop these 4 common units, and then you can do fusion for her. Okay, so anyways, that's going to be it from me for today. Thanks a lot for watching, guys. Take care, and I'll be back with other units that I really enjoy using, and I'll be talking about how to develop them as well. Anyways, thanks a lot, guys. Take care. I'll see you next time. Bye.